walking around with them. And they're all chatting. I don't know what's happening. And then there's like silence. They're like, Enrique, that's your part. And I was like, what the are you guys talking about? There's none of this is on the script. None of this, they had completely gone. They didn't even realize how far they were away from none of the lines that made it, at least in our group, were written on a page.
There was a lot of improvisation.
It was 100% improvised.
If you're fans of a certain movie from 2009 that happens to take place in the woods, then this is absolutely the place to be. So make some noise for America Olivo and Jonathan Sadowski. Make some noise.
How we doing? How we doing, New Jersey?
Them hypes, yeah. They haven't had their coffee yet, I guess. So I'll...
to die in this.
Again, I want to reiterate, this is your guys' panel, your opportunity.
This thing is like 20 pounds.
This could be a weapon in another film.
But, hey,
shoot something.
Let's get some ideas going. This is now a writing session. So again, I want to reiterate, this is your guys' panel, your chance to jump in there with questions at any point that I see hands go up. I'm happy to call them out, but I know it takes a while for the room to warm up, so I have a few here. I've been a big fan of both yours since, I can't believe, 2009 now.
Yeah, man.
But, so I've always wondered, who are you guys fans of that inspired you to pursue acting?
So growing up, I was always a fan of Robin Williams. And I said this before, like, I think in my definition of like a great actor is somebody that can perform both comedy and drama. It's kind of like the two masks of theater, the tragedy and the comedy. So if you're able to kind of perform along that entire spectrum and elicit like emotions and be convincing doing it, I think that's a sign of a great actor. And I think Robin Williams did that. His comedic chops were great, and you'd see him in like Good Will Hunting, and it's just, he's the pinnacle for me.
That's one of the greats, for sure.
Oddly, my favorite movie growing up was Rocky, the third one. Rocky. Wow. And I just really, I think that's why I like things that involve action a lot. And I was also a musician. I respected people who did both music and acting, like Harry Belafonte. He's one of my absolute favorites. Yeah. So it killed me when he passed. And like Cyndi Lauper. I like people who go out of the box, who really challenge themselves to do something different and out of the.
Who doesn't love normal. Cyndi Lauper? So again, I know, reiterate that the rules are a little bit different now due to the strike. So you guys have participated in a certain franchise that, like I said, takes place in the woods. Happens to feature a guy that rhymes with Schmason sometimes. Were you guys fans of that before being involved in it? That particular franchise?
Growing up, I was a big horror nerd. So all the slasher things, really got to me. And it was crazy what parents allowed kids to get away with in the 80s too. Like, I should not have been watching these movies when I was like 9. Like, not at all. But alas, we did, and the 80s were awesome. So yeah, I grew up loving the franchise, and it was cool to be a part of it.
Yeah, and we grew up normal.
Yeah.
So.
Kinda. We turned out all right.
Yeah, no, same. I was a big horror fan too. I actually lost my nerve as I've gotten older, but when I was younger, I used to put that stuff in. It was like, yeah, I could watch anything, and I was the kid who, the other kids would like hide their eyes or be too chicken. And
it's so funny you said that you lost your nerve. So I went to a carnival. I went to the OC Fair recently.
Oh.
And I love roller coasters and stuff like that. I went on, it was basically just like a ski lift that took you from one side of the fair to the other side of the fair. And I about lost my shit. I was like full on white knuckling it. Like, what is going on with me? And for some reason, like, scared the hell out of me. Like, and it was like just literally like kids around there just like playing around, and I was like freaking out. Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know, man. Getting old sucks.
I think that means we're officially old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when you get older that these things can hurt you, but when you're younger, you're like, oh, it's fun.
And it's like Carl, the unreliable carnival ride operator, is probably not the most qualified person to be checking safety protocol.
Yeah. You don't know that when you're younger.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, when you were looking upon the project with your younger eyes, or, you still have both young eyes, what were your first impressions of the project when it first came in your lap?
For me, it was the people that were involved. Like, it was just a group of friends. Like, literally, we all hung out together in LA, and they we were able to work together. So, Ben Feldman, Aaron Yu, Arlen, I worked with Arlen years before this. And it was cool to it was kind of like a mini vacation. It's like all of us just got to leave LA for a while and go to Austin for work. But it was we all hung out together in LA anyway. So it was just it was super fun.
It was a vacation for them. Not a vacation for me. I'm still bitter. I was working in the desert on something else, and Nick Manel, who is another mutual friend, called me just as I was about to. No, I was in the midst of a nervous breakdown because I was so tired from the other shoot, and I was shaking and hot and bloody, and I'm all I kept thinking is you just have to make it to the last shot, and then you get to go home and you get to go to sleep for 2 years. And that's all you're going to do. And I get this call from Nick, I'll never forget, in the, and we were staying in this crap motel because that's all you can stay in that area where we were shooting. And he's like, you got to come, you got to do this. I was hanging up on him. I'm like, I can't talk to you right now. He's like, you don't understand. You don't, it's this, thing we can't talk about.
Yeah.
But it's this franchise, and I stopped a minute, and then he said the second thing that got me was, and you get to stay at the Four Seasons.
That's true.
And I was like, I looked at the roach next to me, and I'm like, we can go to the Four Seasons. What do you think? And so they wrapped me early from that, and they put me on a plane without pass and go. And then I get off of the flight, and they take me directly to the woods. And they're like, oh, your hair's the wrong color. We need more time. I was like, can I go to the Four Seasons, please? Can I please? My roach is like, oh,
when do I get to go to the nice, comfy hotel bed?
Right. I didn't get to go. I don't remember if I even put my bags down.
That's funny.
And then these cats, they've already been working on this for a while. They've been hanging out for 2 weeks apparently, which I came to find out. In a boat and skiing and having camp,
just
real
terrorizing
camp.
Austin. Just a bunch of 24-year-old. No, we're probably older now. It's probably 27, 28, but just maniacs out there.
And they are, so by the time I get there, last kid shoved into the scene, they throw a backpack on me, and I'm walking around with them, and they're all chatting. I don't know what's happening, and then there's silence. They're like, Enrique, that's your part, and I was like, what the are you guys talking about? There's none of this is on the script. None of this, they had completely gone. They didn't even realize how far they were away from none of the lines that made it, at least in our group, were written on a page.
There was a lot of improvisation.
It was 100% improvised.
I have a question.
Great, yes, please.
How long does it take you to actually memorize those scripts? I'm always amazed by actors, especially on Broadway. How long does it take you to get a script and you're ready to go?
I think it depends on the stakes and how big the gun is to your head in order to do it.
I think there's a very big difference between TV and film. So I was doing a sitcom, and so for a sitcom, you get a new script every night.
Yeah.
So we do a table read on Monday, then we get the writers revise the script. You get a new script Monday night. You go in and rehearse Tuesday. You do a run through. Tuesday night you get a revised script. You go on Wednesday, you rehearse the new script, do a run through. You get a new script Wednesday night to shoot on Thursday and Friday. So you can't really lock in the lines because it's going to change. However, with the film, it's pretty much they have a shooting draft. It's called a production draft. So once that script is locked, you can really start kind of digging in and memorizing.
Unless your co-stars just make up other stuff. And then they're looking at me like I'm weird. They're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, just fit in. I'm like, what do you mean fit in? And so I'm coming up with these. I'm trying to interject.
I love to improvise. That's my background. So, yeah.
Well, it's just good if you were told that's what we were doing.
Because we actually shot some stuff without you beforehand.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's right. So they shot around this invisible other person's interjections, and then I had to find ways to involve myself and be in the scene.
But anyway, so to answer your question, so I think it depends on the person. It depends on, for me, memorization it just comes easily. My mom, literally my favorite game as a kid was the game Memory.
Oh,
And my mom would take playing cards and she'd shuffle and turn them all face down on the floor. And I would turn one over and then try to find the match. And it would just, so for me, memorization is like one of my strong points. So for an audition or something like that, I can usually read something once or twice and have it memorized.
Yeah, I happen to be okay with it too, but it also depends on the material too. If the material makes sense, it's easier to memorize. If it doesn't, or if it has a lot of like medical terms and things like that, can be really challenging.
I will say one of the curses of this profession is memorization. It's a dual-edged sword because I am so used to memorizing something and then forgetting it. I can't remember people's names. Because I meet people, and then it's like, if I don't see that person again for a while, it's like, how do I know you, because you're literally just so used to digesting it,
that's an interesting
shooting
point.
it and forgetting about it. Or you get an audition, you memorize something, you forget about it, you're on to the next thing. So you're used to absorbing and then dumping. So you're constantly clearing out the old hard drive. So it's weird. It really does. Your brain is, when I say your brain's a muscle, it really does. The more habits you utilize it for, that you will fall into that in everyday life. So.
Yeah. So do you want to give the audience another chance to jump in if anyone's got questions yet? It gets a little bit shy, I understand, even though it's a full room. So
we got a question over there.
Oh, there is. Oh, thank you.
So, have you heard this theory about your film that the secret illegal weed is actually spacians and he's killing people that get close to it?
I have heard that.
What?
That's a great theory. I've never heard that.
I have heard that, yes.
So again, for those that didn't hear, the theory is that the secret illegal weed is all Schmasons and he's just defending his drug stash.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes.
Do you think it holds true to the story you were telling?
I don't think the screenwriter had that in mind when he wrote the script. I'm not going to speak for him, but I don't think that was planned.
But we can't confirm or deny that.
I can't confirm or deny. I don't know nothing.
Any other questions in the audience right now? Well, that's okay. I have plenty here. One thing I've always loved about this entry is it was done in the remake-heavy 2000s, which I hate when people refer to as the aughts for some reason. But I'm usually, most of the films of that era, bringing back certain franchises and things without naming them, most of them were very underwhelming. But I've always liked this one above all the others of the era, and part of that is because it's sort of a remake, sort of a sequel, sort of an in-betweequel, sort of. So I was always curious, how do you guys see the film?
In-betweequel. I've never heard that term before.
Well, I think you just nailed it right there.
An in-betweequel, okay.
Yeah. I did not understand how it was going to come together so well as it did until I saw it, and so I was very impressed as well, because you do think that you're like, I'm part of the 13th, 15th version of something.
Yeah.
Really, what else are they going to do? And then it was great. I agree. I think it was smooth.
Yeah, I think it checked a lot of boxes. I think it was an homage to other other films in the franchise and in the oeuvre.
And unpredictable, us.
Very, It was like a new take on it, So look, not everybody loved it, which is fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But I think
you're wrong, but you're entitled to your opinion.
You're entitled to have a wrong opinion. But I think the vast majority of viewers and fans they liked it. It was kind of outside the box for the franchise.
Yeah.
So the film also features one of my favorite Schmasons in the fabulous Derek Mears, who we had at one of our very first shows. I find it interesting often that people who play great villains or killers happen to be the gentlest, nicest, kindest people in real life.
He is a teddy bear. Yeah. He is a giant teddy bear. And fun fact, one of the funniest people on planet Earth. Like legit. Derek.
Who?
Derek Mears does improvisational comedy. Yeah. And he is gut-bustingly funny. I've seen many of his shows in Los Angeles. And literally the audience is gasping for air, tears streaming down their face. He's wildly funny. So if you guys are ever in LA and he happens to do one of his comedy shows, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. Agreed. I second that.
Very cool. Still want to give the audience another chance to jump in there, guys. Here we go in the back.
Did you know, like, what was your relationship with the franchise before you did the movie? Were you excited about being in it, or was it kind of like, oh, I know of this, but you learned more about it as you were part of it?
For me, I mean, yeah, I was a fan of the franchise, but also this is kind of like my formative years as an actor in Los Angeles, where I wasn't like really, I was still trying to make my mark, and when an opportunity came up to be a part of a franchise that had such longevity and was, you know, so well received over, you know, decades, it was kind of hard to say no to it. And as I mentioned before, you know, the cast, we were friends before we started shooting, so it was cool to be able to work with your buddies.
I was excited to be a part of it. Same. I did not understand that it meant that I'd be a part of a family the way it has been since then. That I did not comprehend at first, because I just felt like I'm just lucky to be a part of this little sliver. And then later when people are like, oh, you know, you're part of this, like, I am fucking part of this franchise. That's wild.
Yeah.
Forever. Cool. Yeah, and because we all know each other and have, you know, it has felt like a family continuing. These feel like little family reunions sometimes, yeah.
Our cast is like annoyingly fun. Yeah. Like, we're a hoot. We are a hoot.
Was there a lot of studio presence on set, like executives coming around? Because in the 80s, I know they kind of left the filmmakers, you know, alone to make these.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, there were always producers coming on and off set. But they were great. Like, one of the producers when I was done filming, they had to reshoot something, and they dressed the producer up in my outfit, and they shot him from the back. He was like literally Guy Stoddard. He was my stunt double. He was like my double in the film.
Amazing.
Yeah, it was like a shot of like my character from the back, and it was actually one of the executives, I think from Paramount or something.
But you want to let the audience jump back in if there's more questions out there? Oh, here we go in the back. Oh, right here.
About how you were coming like 2 weeks after everybody had established a relationship, and you were kind of like trying to memorize the lines and fit in. Your line about the fish, was that improv or was that scripted? When a character is telling Ben Feldman, "I can teach you to fish," and he's like, I can't say a name, but he says, "I can teach you to fish," and he's like, "I don't know fish," and you're like, "That's what you didn't say."
That's not what you told me. I think I don't know what was.
That was scripted, right?
That was an improv line.
Oh, yeah.
I think my reaction was improv, but I don't know how much the other was.
I think the fishing story was in the script. Man, it was so fucking long ago.
Yeah.
Pardon my language.
I believe.
Don't swear, kids.
I believe it was improvised. Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I believe so. I mean, I don't. Who has these scripts? Do you have it?
I don't have it. I mean.
That would be fun to find.
Yeah, right?
See how far off book we were.
There was one more question in the back there. Favorite scenes in the movie?
So we have to be careful how we answer this question, because we're technically on strike right now, so we're not allowed to promote the film. But for me, there was a scene when this guy who looked like me found a bunch of marijuana, and he sang this really, really cool classic rock song.
I think we can say the rock song.
Yeah, motoring. Yeah.
That was your favorite. You
That was
like
my
your
favorite,
scene.
Yeah.
The
Being
best.
serious, yeah. It was great.
I liked the way that the person who looked somewhat like me, the death scene. I thought it was cool to be a part of what people tell me is one of their favorite ways to die. It's interesting for people to be excited to see me die, or someone who looks like me, whatever. But yeah, it was challenging to pull off, and so I feel like it was interesting to watch too, put it all together, because it was just all pieces, and watching it on screen was pretty wild. Yeah.
What was your favorite scene? You haven't seen it in a while. How old were you when you first saw it?
I trained her when I was in the 80s.
There we go.
Oh yeah.
She was like 4 and 5. Mom was like not in the room. So.
I love it.
Oh, that's parenting done right. So, was there ever sequel talk?
And there's never a film that you're on that people don't talk about sequels.
I mean, if there was, our characters wouldn't be in it.
Yeah, it doesn't. But generally, no matter what you're doing, everyone's like, and the next, and you just never know what's true or not, what'll happen.
Fair enough. So, was there another question out there? Do you want to always make sure the audience can jump in? There you go.
What do you prefer, television or film?
Great question. It depends. Television, you definitely, I think, get to dive deeper into characters because you have a lot more longevity with the show. You know, where like a film is an hour and a half to 2 hours. Well, these days some of them can be 3 hours, but think about this on a TV show, like, you know, you can be doing an hour every week for years. So think about how much more you get to explore with your character. Yeah, it's different. I mean, if you get to be on a TV show, it can be a wonderful experience. And if you get to be in a film with a group of people like we had the fortunate enough to be with on that show, on this project, yeah, I think that's what makes the difference, to be honest. I mean, from a character standpoint, it's just, you know, how deep I get to explore the character, but on a social level, it's just who am I working with, you know?
Yeah, it depends on the project. But I personally, the format I loved the best was what you were talking about, sitcom. That's my favorite because you have rehearsal, you have a live audience, you have kind of the stop and start luxury of TV filming, and you get to move on. You're not stuck in the same route. It's the perfect format if multicam comedy sitcom has kind of become less fashionable. But
multicam is great because when you're doing a good show, it's like this instant reaction. You know, you do something funny and the crowd is like right there with you and they laugh. And then we change a lineup to keep them on their feet, keep them guessing. And then when you build these moments of tension, you can hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
And it's great because I remember growing up watching like those shows about TV bloopers and practical jokes and stuff like that. And I always loved like the outtakes and stuff like, you know, and it was like so funny, like flubbing a line every once in a while and just like the audience reaction and you laugh your ass off and it's just, there's nothing like a multicam.
Because an audience is, when you're an actor, it's like you feed off of that. Just it helps your performance so much. And
it's the closest thing to theater.
It's the closest thing. You're right. And TV film, you don't get it. This is the only opportunity in these settings that we actually finally get to have that reciprocity with the audience and the conventions. But other than that, it's just like you're acting into the void, and you're like, then you read a review or something. You're like, thanks.
Yeah.
You guys are making me want a multicam sitcom where
please bring it back.
Mason Voorhees tries to struggle as a single dad with his like 8 teenage daughters, and they're all wild, and
that's hilarious.
It's fantastic.
Now you're writing, which is against the other.
Oh, I can't do that. Well, that's right, but never mind. That's in theory. Someone smarter than me would write such a thing. So I do want to let the audience. Speaking of people that are smarter than me, we'll let the audience jump back in there for questions. Oh, here we go.
What a hunk.
Really good hugger. Yeah. Really, really good hugger.
He's wonderful. He's a big boy. He's like 6'4".
Also, big sweetheart, just like you're saying.
Yeah.
Just another giant
He's just a good Texas boy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The sweetest.
Yeah.
Yep.
So one I'm always curious about, because I'm a big filmmaker and director nerd, how would you describe Marcus's process for working with actors?
You can't describe it. That's impossible. Trick question. Next.
Next.
Done. Marcus is wonderful.
Wild. It's great when people can get you out of he has an ability to get someone out of their head. He's an unexpected person, so I think it keeps you in that improv format. It keeps you kind of not stuck and stiff and rehearsed. You're sort of off you're a little off all the time, which I think is good juice for good creativity.
Yeah, and he shoots beautiful things. Every one of his projects looks amazing.
Yeah.
So I do want to give the audience one last chance to jump in there. There we go.
Good question.
Good question, yeah.
After. Because I mean, like I'm very confident in my skill set, and when I'm shooting something, I know, like, through experience and through work and rehearsals and stuff, I can have a pretty good idea of, like, you know, this is going to work, this isn't going to work. And there have been some times where I watched it back and I was like, what was I thinking? You know, like, why did I do that? And then you have ideas after you watch yourself back and you're like, I should have did this. Oh, I should have did this. Yeah. So I would say for me, after, always. Yeah.
I have doubt about everything all the time that involves myself. So I don't think any moment is higher or lower than the other. I am nervous. I'm nervous right now. I'm a nervous person. And then when I sometimes can't even watch because I get a pit in my stomach to watch later.
One of my co-stars from a project I did recently won't watch any playback. He won't watch any of his takes, and he won't watch the show when it's done. He does not like to see himself. And I was like, you're an actor, dude. I
don't like to, but I do just for the sake. That's the only way you can learn. Just like you're saying, what works and what doesn't. So I force myself, but I get a pit. And then when it's okay, I'm like, okay, I got through it. But man, I did a show, something last year that I watched back. I had an accent, and I was like, whoa! I thought I had that accent, and I did not. I did not nail it. Nope. Anyway.
Well, I'm sure you're being a little more critical, as, you know, performers always are.
You can be bad. You can admit that you're bad sometimes. Sometimes I'm not great.
Well, I can definitely relate there. Unfortunately, I think that is just about it for time, guys. Be sure to stop by their tables, get some pictures, get some autographs. I know they have a lot more stories to tell you, and show them how great you think they are by giving them a great round of applause.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, New Jersey.
This is Ross Marquand, and you are watching Fandom Spotlight, which is awesome. So like, share, and subscribe. Oh, and have fun and follow your fandom.